My selfish mom threw me out at 16 to raise her new kids. Now that I'm wealthy, she demands I pay for their college, but what occurred on my porch altered all. When I was 16, my mother forced me out of our home to focus on her new family. Now, at 33, thriving in a high-ranking corporate role, she expects me to fund her twins' college education. But a shocking incident at my doorstep shifted everything. I've poured my heart into my career to reach this point, yet I often reflect on how different life might have been had my mom chosen differently. She was only 20 when I was born, and my father vanished early on. From what she later shared, she offered him a chance to stay, but he walked away without a second thought. No support, no drama. Just gone. We lived in a small apartment above my grandparents' garage. It was modest, but it sufficed. My grandparents were our lifeline, supporting her through those tough years. They looked after me while she pursued her physical therapy degree. She balanced studies, work, and parenting, and I respect her for not wallowing in self-pity. As a single parent, she worked tirelessly. My early childhood wasn't terrible. Money was scarce, but I barely noticed. I spent much of my time with my grandparents while she was busy. My grandfather, in particular, adored having me around and played a bigger role in my life than anyone else back then. My mother made efforts to connect with me when she could, reading bedtime stories, taking me to the park, simple things. But everything shifted when I was 8, and she met Leonard at work. He seemed decent at first. Steady job, unremarkable. She often remarked how he stood out from her past partners. They dated for a couple of years and married when I was 11. Leonard wasn't cruel, but he was distant. He treated me politely but never tried to bond. To him, I was just part of the scenery. Initially, life stayed mostly the same. I lived with my mom and now Leonard, and things were okay. Not perfect, but manageable. Over time, though, subtle changes crept in. My mother's focus shifted to Leonard and their shared life. Meals grew quieter, centered on them, not me. I tried to join their conversations, only to be dismissed. At first, I didn't take it to heart, assuming she was just caught up in her new marriage. But as months passed, it became clear I was being sidelined. I doubled my efforts to stay visible, excelling in school, helping at home, anything to prove I still mattered. When I was 12, my mom announced she was pregnant with twins. Everyone was overjoyed, including me, at least initially. I pictured myself as the supportive big brother, helping with the babies and being part of this new family. I even took up babysitting gigs to prepare. But as her pregnancy progressed, my mother's attitude toward me grew colder. It felt like she had no time for me anymore. Everything revolved around the twins. I hoped it was temporary, that things would normalize after their birth. But when the twins arrived, I became invisible. I understood that newborns demand attention. But this was different. It wasn't just her being busy. It was as if I no longer existed. Family dinners stopped entirely. She used to make time for us to connect, but now, nothing. The small moments that once defined our bond, talking about our day, watching TV together, sharing silly jokes, vanished. The worst part was my persistence. I kept trying to fit in, kept excelling in school, kept helping out, but nothing worked. I was no longer a priority. By 16, the situation reached a breaking point. One evening, my mom and Leonard sat me down for a serious talk. The air felt heavy, and I braced myself. They explained that money was tight with the twins' expenses, and they couldn't afford to keep supporting everyone. Leonard laid out their finances like I was supposed to sympathize. My mom barely spoke until she said they deserve better. Not, we'll work it out, or we're a team. Just a clear signal that I was expendable. I didn't argue. There was no point. I packed my clothes and a few belongings and left. I didn't look back. I headed to my grandparents' house, and they welcomed me without hesitation, though they were livid. My grandfather paced, muttering about his daughter's betrayal, while my grandmother hugged me tightly, shaking her head. They wanted to confront her but held back, mostly for the twins' sake. I understood. The twins were blameless, caught in a mess they didn't create. That day marked a turning point. I realized I could no longer depend on my mom. At 16, I was on my own, and it was terrifying. But I had no choice. I had to survive. Living with my grandparents provided stability, but their fixed income couldn't stretch far. So I got a job at a local cafe. It wasn't much, but it covered essentials like school supplies and clothes. Balancing work and school was grueling, late nights, early mornings, and endless homework. My grades dipped slightly, but I stayed on track to graduate. What hurt most was my mom's silence. She never checked in, as if I'd vanished from her life. Family gossip occasionally brought news of her and Leonard. They were thriving, with the twins flourishing in their perfect suburban home. I couldn't fathom how two working adults couldn't afford a third child. I wasn't a lavish expense, just a kid needing basics. Meanwhile, I was grinding through late shifts in school, barely keeping my head above water. It wasn't about money. It was clear they simply didn't want me. In my senior year, college acceptance letters arrived. I was thrilled but terrified, knowing I couldn't afford tuition alone. Against my instincts, I texted my mom, "I got into college. Can you help with financial aid or co-sign a loan?" I agonized over the message, rewriting it countless times before sending it. Deep down, I knew her answer, but a flicker of hope lingered. Her reply came hours later. "We're saving for the twins. We can't help. Sorry. No congratulations, no warmth, just rejection." It stung more than I expected, not because of the money, but because of her indifference. I stared at her words, feeling foolish for hoping. My aunt, however, stepped up. When I told her, she didn't hesitate. "I'll co-sign your loans," she said firmly. "You focus on succeeding." She didn't have to help. She had her own family, but she believed in me. Her faith meant more than the loan itself. I vowed not to let her down. College was brutal. I juggled campus jobs, weekend shifts, and freelance web design to pay my way. Sleep was rare, but I stayed focused. My mom remained absent, never reaching out. I'd occasionally see her social media, photos of the twins at school, events, birthdays, or family trips. She looked so happy, like her life was flawless. Those images hurt, so I blocked her to protect myself. At graduation, I invited my aunt. She sat front row, cheering louder than anyone when I crossed the stage. My mom? I didn't bother inviting her. She hadn't earned a place in my success. After college, I moved to a small city for an entry-level job. The pay was modest, but it covered rent and loan payments. My first apartment was sparse, but I threw myself into work, taking on extra tasks, staying late, learning constantly. My efforts paid off with promotions, and by my late 20s, I was financially stable, living in a better place with savings. My mom and I had no contact. She'd occasionally ask relatives about me, but it never led anywhere. She had her family, I had my life. I came to terms with her never changing. I'd hoped for an apology or acknowledgement, but it never came. I stopped waiting. By 30, I was in upper management, earning more than I'd ever imagined. I kept it low-key, sharing only with my aunt. But at a family event, she mentioned my success to my mom, hoping to mend things. It backfired. Days later, my mom and Leonard showed up at my door unannounced. I peered through the peephole, stunned. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What's this about?" I asked. Leonard pushed past me. "We need to talk," he said brusquely. My mom followed silently. "We heard about your promotion," Leonard began. "You're finally making something of yourself. Took you long enough?" I blinked, floored by their audacity. "Okay," I said cautiously. My mom spoke up. "The twins are heading to college, and we're struggling financially. Since you're doing well, we thought you could cover their tuition." I was speechless. After years of silence, they were demanding money. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Why wouldn't we be?" Leonard snapped. "You've got the cash, no kids, no responsibilities. Don't pretend you can't help." "It's not about money," I said, my voice rising. "It's about you abandoning me and now acting like I owe you." My mom sighed dramatically. "Here we go with the sob story," she said. "You've held this grudge forever. Look at you. You're fine." "I'm fine because I fought for it," I shot back, "despite you." Leonard smirked. "Maybe you should thank us. Kicking you out made you who you are." "Thank you?" I said, incredulous. "You discarded me because I was inconvenient, and now you want me to bail out the kids you chose over me? No way." My mom's tone turned sharp. "You're selfish," she hissed. "I raised you alone, sacrificed everything, and now you won't help your own siblings?" "I don't owe them, or you, anything," I said. "You made your choices. I made mine." Leonard stepped closer. "You've always thought you're better than us," he sneered. "You were nothing to this family then, and you're nothing now." His words stung, but I held firm. "Then why are you here begging?" I asked coldly. My mom exploded. "We didn't want to come here," she yelled. "The twins deserve a future, and if you weren't so self-centered, you'd see that." I laughed bitterly. "You call me selfish? You threw your son out for your new family and now expect me to save them? That's not my responsibility." Leonard jabbed a finger at me. "Watch yourself," he growled. "Family helps family. You're not family," I said firmly. "Family doesn't abandon their kid and then demand handouts. You're strangers." My mom's face contorted. "Fine. Be a spoiled brat," she spat. "Don't come crawling back when your life falls apart. You'll always be nothing." I'd had enough. "Leave now or I'm calling the police," I said, pulling out my phone. Leonard scoffed. "Go ahead. See how it looks kicking out your parents?" "You're not my parents," I said calmly. "Not anymore." My mom muttered something, grabbing Leonard's arm. You'll regret this," she said as they left. "No," I said, closing the door. "I won't." That moment showed me how much I'd grown. The boy craving their approval was gone. I owed them nothing, and I wouldn't let them manipulate me. I thought that was the end, but they weren't done. Weeks later, my co-workers told me my mom had stormed into my workplace while I was out sick. She demanded to see me, shouting about family and obligations. When told I wasn't there, she refused to leave, causing a scene until security escorted her out. I was mortified and apologized to my team. I informed HR, ensuring she was barred from the premises. But she didn't stop. One evening, I found her pacing my driveway, fuming. As I got out of my car, she charged at me. "You can't ignore me!" she screamed. I kept my distance. "Why are you here?" "We need to talk," she said, jabbing a finger at me. "You think you can ditch your family? Your duties?" "What duties?" I snapped. "You're the parent, not me. The twins are your responsibility." She lost it, yelling about my selfishness and her sacrifices. "I gave up everything for you," she screamed. "You gave me up," I said, struggling to stay calm. "You tossed me out like garbage." She grew louder, drawing neighbors outside. "He's ungrateful," she shouted, flailing. "Always has been." Neighbors tried to calm her, but she was unhinged. She lunged at me, grabbing for my phone as I dialed 911. "Don't you dare call the cops on your mother," she shrieked. "You abandoned me," I yelled, keeping her at bay. "You don't get to claim me now." A neighbor intervened, pulling her back as sirens approached. She fought, still screaming, but the police arrived, ending the chaos. I stood there, shaken, realizing how far she'd fallen. The next day, I filed a police report detailing her workplace stunt and the driveway incident. The officer was kind, guiding me through the restraining order process. When I told my grandparents, they were outraged. "She's gone too far," my grandfather said. My grandmother felt guilty, saying they should have done more for me. I reassured them. They'd given me a home when I had nowhere else. They'd done enough. They decided to cut contact with my mom, a painful but necessary step. The restraining order was granted, and life calmed down. I focused on my career, home, and the people who mattered, my grandparents, aunt, and friends. My aunt was my anchor, never asking for anything in return. Months later, I wanted to honor her. I didn't just give her money, I planned a surprise. I gifted her a weekend trip for her family, something she'd always wanted but never prioritized. When I handed her the envelope, she was stunned. "What's this?" she asked. "It's for you," I said. "You've always had my back. You deserve this." Tears filled her eyes. "You didn't have to," she said. "I helped because I love you, not for this." "That's why it's yours," I said, choking up. She hugged me, and I felt the unconditional love I'd longed for. She saw me for me. I heard snippets about my mom and Leonard. Their finances were collapsing, and the twins were struggling in college. I felt no guilt. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. I'd spent years seeking their approval, but I didn't need it anymore. I knew my worth and surrounded myself with people who did too. Family isn't blood. It's the people who show up, who stand by you, who love you without strings. I hope my mom finds peace, but I'm done being her fallback. My life is mine, and I'm moving forward. If anything new happens, I'll share an update. Final update. Hey everyone, I didn't expect to write again, but something surprising happened, and I want to share it. After the chaos with my mom, Leonard, the restraining order, and her outburst, I thought that chapter was closed. But one of the twins reached out. I got a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Max. Can we talk? I want to know you. You're my brother, and I don't know you at all." I stared at it, unsure. Max and I had no relationship. When I left home, he was just a kid, and after everything, I had no connection to the twins. I wondered if this was my mom's latest scheme, but Max's message felt sincere. I replied, "What's this about?" He called soon after. I hesitated but answered. "Hey," he said, sounding nervous. "I know this is out of nowhere, but I've been thinking about you. You're my brother, and I know nothing about you." "That feels wrong." I stayed quiet, so he continued. "I know what Mom and Dad did to you," he said. "I was too young to get it then, but I do now. It was awful, and I don't blame you for cutting them off. But their choices kept us from being brothers, and I hate that." His honesty surprised me. "Max, you didn't cause this," I said. "You didn't make their decisions." "I know," he said, "but it still sucks. I missed out on having you as my brother, and now that I understand, I want to try to build something. Their mess shouldn't define us." His words hit me. I'd never expected this. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I don't want us to be strangers forever," he said. "I'm not asking you to forgive them or make excuses. I just want to know you." His sincerity was undeniable. I'd spent years viewing the twins as part of the family that rejected me, but Max showed me they were victims of our parents' selfishness too. "I've worked hard to move on," I said. "Opening this door isn't easy." "I get it," he said. "I'm not asking for much, just a chance to talk, to see if we can connect. You're my brother, and I want to know who you are." I paused, weighing my options. The twins didn't choose this, and Max's effort felt real. Despite my caution, I wanted to try. "Okay," I said. "We can start with a conversation." His relief was clear. "Thank you," he said. "That's all I want. A starting point." We ended the call, and I spent the evening reflecting. Max's outreach stirred emotions I hadn't anticipated. I'd built a life I'm proud of, and I'm wary of old wounds. But Max's honesty, no guilt trips, no excuses, felt different. For the first time, I see a chance for a real connection with someone from that side of my family. It's a small step, but it's something. If you enjoyed this story and felt the emotions behind it, don't forget to give it a like, share it with others, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life experiences and heartfelt stories. Your support means the world, and it helps us bring more content like this to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.